Welcome, everyone, to the Scaling Smart podcast, where we bring together industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and innovators to discuss key insights, strategies, and their experiences that have driven success both for themselves and their customers. I'm Billy Mitchell, your host. Today, I'm excited to introduce a special guest, Aaron Wolpoff, agency owner and fractional CMO at doublezebra.com, which is a strategic marketing agency and fractional CMO partner that helps growing companies break through growth plateaus by engineering sustainable customer and revenue expansion through data-driven strategy, tailored marketing leadership, and creative execution. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Hey, Billy. I'm great. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, I'm excited for the conversation. Anytime I get a chance to connect and communicate with another marketer, it's always tends to be a good conversation. So, as a reminder to you, as well as our audience, we break this conversation up into three primary subjects. One, we want to get to know you and your organization. Number three, talk about the industry as a whole, your ideal client, where they fit in. I like to ask the question, where do you see the industry as a whole going within the next, I suppose at this point, 1 to 2 years? It used to be 5 to 10 years, but in the next couple of years.
Right.
And then kind of the meat and potatoes, growth and scale. What are you up to help grow your organization, and what's worked and even what hasn't worked? So, does that sound like a plan?
I like it. Yeah, I like talking shop and making it accessible. So let's do this.
Perfect. Well, I think the best way to start is to kind of get that 90-second elevator pitch of who you are and what you guys do.
Boy. So, Aaron Wolpoff, my marketing practice agency company is called Double Zebra. It came out of my own agency background and startup background and everything background where, we work with, I just say interesting companies across different verticals. Usually there is some type of, you alluded to it, some type of plateau or growth challenge or challenger mentality. And we just help strategically, executionally, and creatively get through that barrier and then enjoy that next level of success.
It's awesome.
I've also got a podcast, and we can talk about that a little bit too.
Yeah, well, go ahead. What is your podcast and what do you guys talk about?
Yeah, so our show is called We Fixed It, You're Welcome. We've been around since the end of 2024. It's a panel show, so it's not just me. I've got a marketing, branding, strategy lens, but that's only one piece of the equation. So I've also got a panelist who is in operations and customer experience, and then a panelist who is on the people and talent and culture side of the equation. And it's like the building blocks to basically run any company. Sometimes we'll have a CFO or a financial lens come in, or another guest with their own expertise. But we basically take over a company or a cultural tension point that's happening right now that nobody knows there's a problem. No one knows the answer. We're self-appointed. We're going to fix it. And we build ourselves to a solution of something really complicated, sometimes impossible, over the course of an
Nice.
hour, and then we're out. So it's a
That's
lot of
awesome.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think I should probably tell you now. I'm going to start a podcast called "I Broke It, I'm Sorry," and I think it'll be a good sister to yours. So,
That's fun.
oh man, yeah. So I think that sounds great, and I look forward to taking a listen to it. I have gathered just from looking at your LinkedIn and doing a little bit of research on the organization as a whole. You've got quite the background in how you got here, but for our audience that doesn't know, what led up to Double Zebra and where you are today? So, what's the journey of Aaron?
It's two pronged. One is curiosity, and two is working for other people for long enough. So, by curiosity, I mean I just as marketing is such an incredibly huge discipline, and people beat themselves up for not knowing. Well, I'm in marketing, but I don't understand TikTok conversions with TikTok shops. Well, okay, maybe that's not your specialization, but there's always a layer to peel back on. So the curiosity side is what got me into a career exploration and one thing to not a straight line but one thing to another um, and then having done that enough times under other people's rule, where you figure out your own best practices and your own instincts and your own success stories, while other people are kind of telling you what to do, and sometimes there's pushback, sometimes it works well. I had to do it for myself at a certain point. A lot of entrepreneurs feel that pull too. Um,
Yeah.
you get to a point. Is it the easiest solution? No, it's probably the hardest.
Yep.
Which not to dissuade anybody from it. It's a great journey, but you get to a point where you have to. There's no other answer, and so that's what I wound up doing about 8 years ago,
Yeah.
and it's still a journey. We there's still not a straight path all the time, but we just keep figuring things out.
Yeah. Well, and things change so quick now. I feel like every day is a journey is a whole nother meaning than it was even 10 years ago. And it's funny, I joke, I left the previous marketing agency, now I suppose 15 years ago. And just because I was realizing I just can't work for a boss. And then I realized that I'm like the worst boss I've ever worked for. So
Yeah,
it
right.
didn't work out super good in that sense.
A lot less days at the beach than I envisioned.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, that's great. Good to know you and your organization. So let's talk about your ideal client. You started to jump into it a little bit in your intro. But specifically, if we were to bring you somebody on a silver platter, what do they look like? Tell us a little bit about their characteristics. Who do you serve?
Yeah. So it's I love founders with an idea in a garage, and we have no idea who our audience is. I'll do that all day long. I'll do that probably in retirement, in quotes. Who I like working with at the now is companies that know who they are. They've been around a while. A while could be 3 to 5 years even, but there's market viability, there's a customer base, there's an acceptance. The market hasn't said no, get out, you know, and they've reached a certain point where maybe they've optimized their model as far as it can go, and now what? That's really the fundamental question that companies, that I work with. That's a great question to bring to the table. We've done this. Um, Everyone was saying yes. Now they're saying no. Now what? Or we've done this. We've tapped out our regional market. We want to look at other side, revenue channels um, or growth opportunity. Now what? Um, if they say now what, and they understand that there's kind of an internal, vulnerability about we know what we know. We're experts in these areas, and what we're not experts is in calling out things from the outside and figuring out how to build it back better. Um, that's a great conversation to have.
Yeah.
So yeah.
If you were to think about the customers you've worked with in the past and certainly your customers now, what are some of the commonalities of pain points or problems that you come across that you just see like typical across these business owners?
Yeah, it's funny because, when you talk about running your own business and building and scaling, you want to build, ideally, you want to build this repeatable growth engine, right? So we work with motorcycle shops that fabricate, specific parts, components. Um, my brain doesn't work that way. So I do category hop. I go from one company to, a SaaS company to a tech company to a consumer goods company to an entertainment company. But they do have commonalities. And even on the podcast, we talk about it. There's common challenges. There's friction between leadership and what's achievable. Someone writes a number on a paper and says, we're going to get to this revenue next year. And you're like, based on what? um, there's truths within the brand or within the company that they're so convoluted with other messaging that they can't shine through. And that sounds like marketing speak, but really it's like peel back everything, say one thing. Um, Sometimes simplicity is key. So that's a common challenge is companies just kind of being so close to it that they need someone from the outside, um, maybe pointing out the obvious, but obvious is not always simple, right? It's
Right.
so that's what I do. A commonality across no matter what I take on. I can work within a system and optimize it and say, okay, we got our results. Let's engineer it for better results. And I can also say, wait a minute, that system's why are we doing that system? Have you looked at this system? Check this out. And then it's like, well, I'm doing that today. I'm talking to a company where I looked at their model and I said, this is cool. And have you ever optimized, you're sitting on a trove of something. Have you ever leveraged that? And they're like, yeah, we thought about it. This is cool. And I'm like, yeah, it's cool. So
That's good.
that's the commonality is being able to follow logic, follow process, follow results, build on results, and think outside the entire system and say, hey, check this out. What if we did
Yeah.
this? Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. You mentioned in there as well, talking about simplicity and complexity and stuff. It's funny. I was actually driving back from a meeting this morning, and I was contemplating a project that I'm in the middle of, and had the aha moment that I said, I think I'm overcomplicating something that needs to be simplistic. And I think that my intent in overcomplicating it was, in some essence, to wow the customer, right? And to show them we're doing all these cool things. And at the end of the day, the customer just wants the result, right? And so I started this process of, okay, how can I take my system and make it simple, right? It's going to deliver the same thing, but it'll just be more efficient, more effective, and less stress on me.
Yeah. Well, Billy, have you ever seen that where you start out your instinct to explain things the way that you want them explained to you, but then
Yep.
you forget that it's, the client customer wants, they think differently. They want different outcomes than you do as a professional. Have you had
Yep.
that put like dynamic
Oh
before?
yeah. 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 Absolutely. And when you start to think about it that way, you realize how much of your conversation throughout the day is really that like internal speak, the way that you'd want to be spoken to. So it's really interesting how we do that.
Yeah. For I know at least for me that was a hard thing to let go of where I wanted everyone to come into like to understand my logic flow and my explain every decision and why I didn't take alternate courses of action but I chose this one and now I just skip to the end. Like no one wants to go through that. They can question
Yeah.
it and then I can start to say, well, let me take you through this. But don't start there. Don't burden that on someone that didn't ask for that. They just want to see like, all right, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. My CRO, he and I have been together for, I think we're now at 10 years, something like that. And he's a very technical, analytical guy. So when he's communicating something, it's very detailed, very processed. It's a lot, right? And we work really well together. This is tangentially related to what you're saying. We work really well together because then I come from behind and I say, what he's actually saying is A, B, C, and make it real, direct to the customer. Customer's like, oh, that makes sense. He's the
Yeah.
smart one. You're the one that interprets him.
Right.
That's
Right.
good.
Yeah, he built it, but I understand you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, well, we're kind of already heading into that part of the conversation, but the industry as a whole, marketing, in general, maybe even a little bit in that podcasting world, I feel like podcasts have become real mainstream, maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. I don't know. Hoping mine is all right too. But uh, what do you see within our industry? What's kind of some of those key pillars that are maybe staying the same, or key pillars that are changing? Inevitably, these conversations lead into AI at some point. So what does that look like for you guys? And I'd say I'll cap the question as well. Over the next couple of years, what are we going to see different? What are we going to see change? And I suppose, what are we going to see stay the same?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about AI all day long. I'm sure you do.
Yes.
It comes up in every conversation now. I'm not scared of it. I just keep embracing whatever the next, it's different from a day to day to week to minute. So whatever it is, I'm on board. I'm just going to keep rolling with it. Is it going to
Yeah.
take my job functions away? Yeah, I don't do interface design as much as I used to. I miss that. That's a good way of just thinking creatively and logically at the same time. And if I can enter a prompt and see something that I like and then do the final tweaks and adjustments, perfect. Part of the challenge that we talk about on our show, we had an episode devoted to it, but let's say I used to block 4 hours on a calendar to do like a user flow and an interface design and CTA placement. But now I can do it with Claude, with a prompt, and it's good. Where did that time go? Where did
Yeah.
the 3 to 4 hours go? Why don't I get it back? So
Yeah.
that's a struggle.
Yeah. A buddy of mine who, when chat was really coming to the mainstream surface, he really started to dive in, and he coined it really nicely. Something that I've kind of held on to is exactly what you're talking about, is condensing that workflow, right? So we're taking that thing that took 3 hours before, and it's now an hour or less, and it seems as though it's getting shorter and shorter. And for me, I think what I've really appreciated about that is, I'm allowed now, because of that, to spend more time on the thinking part of it, because the prompt is as important as the outcome.
Yeah.
And it really helps you to suss out what's important and what you're looking for. And then allowing it just to create it, I think has been a unique partnership in that. So I definitely appreciate the efficiency it's bringing.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like I said, I'm not scared. Let it do everything that I do. I'll figure something else out.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. So as much as you can be. Um, so that's one side of the equation is just the AI transformation. But and I am hearing cautions, and I'm reading all the things that say, wait, like don't go all in on AI. Like so many companies are doing that and building their entire ecosystem around, Chat Claude or OpenAI or whatever. Um, who knows? Like, it's probably a good bet, but who knows? We're still figuring this stuff out. The creators are
Yeah.
still figuring this stuff out. So, is it like, don't watch out for cars? They may not be around. We don't know.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
but maybe there's something to it. So, as much as I'm like all in AI, sure, there is a small portion of my thinking and my practices that says, okay, well, what if we decide AI is not for all those things and it's just for one specific thing and there's a backlash and all that stuff? Maybe have a backup plan. And a lot of companies that are in development or SaaS or or build or just efficiency systems are building everything around AI without a backup plan. So
Yeah.
keep a parachute somewhere.
I love it. That's good. Um, so moving into growth and sales, how old is your company? How old is Double Zebra?
Um, it's been around a while. We actually reincorporated, I don't know, I want to say like a decade ago.
Okay, nice. Yeah, so you're long in the tooth, I think is what they say. That's incredible. What um, what has been some of the biggest drivers of growth and scale for you as an organization, and maybe also what does that even mean to you?
Um, it's market dependent, some of it. So I always stay busy. It's how busy is the question. But the market dependency is right now. We've got so much saturation of, I mean, really strong. I talk to them all the time. Strong, talented people that are core specialists in what they do, and they're all available, and they all want to work. And they'll work with smaller companies, like ex Meta, ex Deloitte. They'll work for
Yeah.
smaller companies than they ever did, just because there are opportunities there. And actually, small and startup mentality companies are the ones making more interesting moves these days. So, are they gonna, companies are a lot of times in survival mode right now too, where they're not thinking a week ahead, a month
Yeah.
ahead. So when I'm grounded in strategy and creative development and all those things, that's it's not a nice to have, but the thinking can be, well, we just cut, 30% of our workforce. That's a nice to have.
Mhm.
So that's where companies get stuck. That's where I can I can go against the grain and push and say, no, you need these things. And I spent, several months talking to companies and saying, well, you need these things. And they're like, yeah, but the market sucks. And I'm like, okay. So it's about adaptation. I can keep on that track and keep ringing that bell. Or I can
Mhm.
find companies, like I said, like earlier stage companies or younger companies with something to prove. And they want all in. So I'd rather work with companies that are seeing their way through it and
Yeah.
excited about challenges versus companies that are I feel for them, but if they're just kind of waiting around to see what happens and uh, and being conservative to the point that it's costing them, it's we can talk for a very long time, but nothing's ever going to happen.
Right. Right. And for you personally, and for the organization, how do you incorporate like partnerships and growth through, partnering with others. Is that one of your core, ways of working? Like if I were to have an organization, I'm thinking of a couple of them that need a CMO and a fractional CMO at that. Is that typically how you get into your customer base, or what are some of those ways?
Yeah, absolutely. I like having, multiple agency partnerships going or practitioner partnerships going at any given time. Because there's things that I know I'll say it to clients I don't do well as someone else I know.
Hmm.
And I'd rather keep a network going and have people on speed dial and say, you know what, like this one's for me, and let's carve out this piece and give it to someone else because I trust them. Or this
Yeah.
isn't for me. Let me tell you who to talk to. I don't care if I get a referral fee. Like I just, let's make you happy and you'll send someone else my way. It all works out. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would much rather, you can only be on your own for so long without going a little stir crazy. So even on my own, I have, I have people I work with.
Yeah.
But the more, yeah, the it just leads to better things. We all need each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Every once in a while, I'll just think about our customer base and past success and past growth. And oftentimes, any organization that's been brought to me by a partner has tended to be the best ones, right? The best customers, the longest standing. And I think that there's a key component to that is there's built-in trust from day one, where it's like, hey, I've told you that you need to work with this other person. You're now kind of borrowing my trust deposits that I've put into this customer, and you can just run with it and have more success. And then the collaboration that in this case you and I would have is great because we can share our insights and share our strategies that are benefiting the customer. So yeah, partnership growth for me is it's a little easier than going out and getting cold new business.
Yeah, definitely. And there's people that have full BD sales teams always on.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like the ones that are, pinging to the point of exhaustion and exploiting, prospects. I mean like people that are really good and that's what they do and they figure out solutions for potential clients and that helps. It helps and I don't need a sales staff necessarily, but if someone else does and we can figure out how that fits into the equation and bringing me in, that's great. That's one less thing I have to do.
Sure. I love it. Well, this has actually been a really good conversation, and I would love to bring you into the final stage here. I didn't prep you for this, but I like to end all my conversations with a lightning round. Just going to ask you a couple questions and basically say the first thing that comes to your mind. Sound good?
Potato.
Perfect. You're off to a good start. Next one: coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Cool. What's one tool or system you rely on to keep your organization running smoothly?
Um, I'll just say ChatGPT. Like I'm not
Yeah.
giving up on it yet.
Yeah, absolutely. We spend most of our day in there. Favorite book, podcast, or resource that's influenced you the most?
The Little Prince. I read it. I try to read it every year.
Okay. I've never heard of it. I'm going to check it out.
Oh, classic.
Love it. All right. What's one bucket list item you've already checked off in your life?
Oh, gosh. I went to the Swiss Alps in the middle of winter, which was pretty
Ooh,
crazy. Yeah,
ooh, that sounds awesome.
it was cold.
I can imagine. What's one goal you're still working on?
I'm planning to go to India this year for the first time, and I'm super psyched about it.
That's cool. That I would like to go there someday for sure. Finally, Aaron, if our listeners want to get a hold of you, connect with you, what's one of the best ways to do that?
Yeah, so you can go visit my company's website, doublezebra.com, double zebra or zebra if you're British.
British.
And the podcast is We Fixed It, You're Welcome, and that's at wefixeditpod.com.
Excellent. Well, Aaron, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining the podcast. For everybody else, this is a wrap of this episode of Scaling Smart. I'm your host, Billy Mitchell, and I want to thank you for tuning into this Scaling Smart podcast where we have conversations with real people with real stories who have learned how to scale smart.